What's up with it, Six Man? Hey, from the time we're little, we get asked questions that have to do with like our motivation and stuff. You know, your parents you'll do something you shouldn't do, and your parents will say, "Why'd you do that? Why would you do that?" And it's always funny because like they expect little kids to be rational, like to give you a well thought out explanation. Is that what the parents expect? Anyway, we don't know why we do stuff when we're little, and the thing is, when we get older, oftentimes we still don't know, but it all has to do with something called drive. Drive is interesting because drive is a word that has multiple meanings. Drive can refer to what you do when you get in your car. We think of it in that vernacular, but drive also has to do with a lot of other things. Drive is it's this impulse, it's this compelling that we have. It's like a propulsion, you know, it's like when something propels you forward and you can't help it. Like if you've ever been to a beach and you ever boogie boarded, when you try to catch a wave and you can stay in front of it, it just propels you, it drives you, it moves you forward. And it got me to thinking, why are people so difficult to talk out of bad situations? I don't know if you ever thought about that. You ever tried to talk somebody out of a relationship? They really like this girl, really like this guy, and you're like, don't do it, don't do it. In some cases, it's just hearsay, right? You heard this dude is a bad dude, so you're like, dude, his reputation precedes him. Girl, you don't want to mess with him, right? Or it's vice versa. In other cases, we have more first-hand experience, right? You can say, I dated that guy, or I dated that girl, went out with her for like two days, and it was the worst 2 days of my life, right? Broke my heart. But sell it as you may try to, the person doesn't bite, right? The good friend doesn't heed the advice, right? So they don't pay homage or, you know, show a lot of respect for your experiential knowledge. Got to experience it on their own, right? Got to make those mistakes on their own. And we wonder why people are so difficult to talk out of bad situations. But it's because of the drive. When you consider how the drive works, a car has a friction point. I remember my first car was a Toyota Tercel hatchback, man. One of the doors didn't open, and I had to get in the car through the back, like the hatchback. I'm not joking. Ask anybody who knows me, which might be hard for you to do if you don't know anybody who knows me. But in my car, man, I had a bucket, and you had to. But it was a stick shift, and the stick shift wasn't hard. You know, once I finally learned how to drive it. But it had a friction point. When you engage the clutch, and as you're letting off the clutch, you start pressing on the gas, there's a point where the car will kind of just propel itself without you giving it a lot of gas. And then with automatic transmissions, you know how that works. You know what I mean? If the car's in drive, it's going to go. But it's on the gas or not for the most part. So drive is really kind of this impulsive, automatic thing. And depending on how we've trained ourselves to operate, your habits, where you were born, how you've been raised, your convictions, your values, there are things at work in you propelling you forward, whether you realize it or not. So a lot of times, you know, back to the relationship, you might be propelled into certain types of relationships with people who are destructive. You might be propelled towards certain behavior that is like counterproductive. You know, we might even say counterintuitive. You know, I've always wondered without judging, you know, because my grandmother, I love my grandmother. She went home to be with the Lord. She passed away a couple years ago. And when I was younger, you know, we always went to baseball games, and we used to be around people who smoked. You know, because back in the day, you know, you go to bowling alleys, people smoked. You went to the baseball game, people smoked all around you. And I used to think to myself as a kid, why do people smoke cigarettes if you can't breathe smoke? Didn't understand it. You know, same thing with alcohol and any other habits that seem counterintuitive, but again, it's a propulsion. There are things that you give place to in your life, bouncing around, quitting things all the time, never completing things that you start, letting people down, you know, promising things too quickly and not being able to keep your word. These are all habits that we create based on propulsion, and they continue. It's weird because the way drive works is the more you do something, the more you are propelled and give place to the thing that is the habit, the more you actually build that drive until it really automatically propels you forward in life. That's how life kind of just starts happening to you. So one thing that happened tonight is, you know, I took a ride. I live in Rancho Cucamonga, and I took a ride by Quake Stadium, where our minor league baseball team plays. And I've been living out here for a long time. I've never been to a Quakes game, so I got to do that. But I just thought, man, how much drive must you have just to keep playing baseball in the minor leagues in America? You know, knowing that you probably will never get to the big leagues. But there's some guys, they'll spend 10, 12, 13, 14 years playing minor league baseball, making pennies, you know, essentially. Riding buses everywhere, sleeping in cheap motels. But there's a drive. There's something that they love about baseball. There's a hope there. There's something that's in them. And, you know, for good or for bad, that's what's in them and that's what compels them. But I think the thing to always be maybe keeping a gauge on is what drives us and where are you driven to, right? Drive is, I can't think of one context where I've ever heard the word drive in a negative sense, right? I mean, I've heard people saying, man, his drive was so strong that it caused him to run over people sometimes, you know, and do things that had irregard for the well-being of others. But most of the time I hear people say, oh, even in sports, a line drive, in basketball, a drive to the basket. The word drive, meaning push, meaning propel, meaning catapulted, meaning going forward in a strong way, is usually not used negatively. But we got to keep in mind that sometimes people do things, the bad habits, the things that short circuit our success are sometimes also the product of our drive. So keep your eyes on the road, as they say, man. Foot on the gas is fine, but that's, you know, brakes are just as valuable as a gas pedal. So something to keep in mind, man. This is day 4. I got 3 more to go to get the 7 in. I'm enjoying this, doing a lot more video blogging, and for those of you who listen and follow and share, I appreciate it. Share the wisdom. Be strong with active wisdom. Be strong with active wisdom. It's not wisdom if you're not applying it. That's my motto. That's my creed. I'll see you guys later, man. I'm out of here.
Hammer cock back, still gunning for change. Who'll stand here together strong under a name? Which crew run a sound that'll punish the game? It's Deep Space 5, all one and the same. Beside myself being play dog, wake being great stuff. Made up a concoction, honest Abe but Dr. Strange love. Cuffed together on a wire with the rain touch. Ain't it for any and everybody that ain't us. You can't touch what I write in paintbrush, cause I heard your little rap and trust me, it ain't much. I take such time.